Hello everybody, and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, HeroClix, and the other entertaining games made by WizKids. I'm WizDad. I'm quite ancient and definitely poorly constructed. I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the WizKids Triforce of gaming. It's Onslaught Wednesday. Today we are talking the first three Ancient Construct storyline scenarios. There's 6 of them, so today we'll talk about the first 3. Next week, we'll finish it out with the last 3. But, you know what we gotta do first. Let's talk the WizKids Progress Report.
Kowalski, Progress Report.
So I know the WizKids Progress Report has kind of devolved to WizDad looking at the monthly solicits and just saying what's coming out, but that's kind of what I figured the Progress Report was supposed to be. Basically, any news that we've heard of upcoming products, stuff like that. And so today, being November 15th, I mentioned it on the special Monday show that I did of, today's Wednesday is a big release day. Wednesdays typically are for WizKids. I don't know why. I kind of like it now that I think about it. Just like Wednesday, middle of the week, everyone's waiting for the weekend, right? So definitely check out your local if they got their order in. I know the release day is on Wednesday, but it really depends on when your store, the distributor ships to your store. I know for us with Alliance, I think it comes Mondays, but sometimes Fridays. It's really hit or miss. But either way, today is release day for like the D&D Nalzers, Marvelous Miniatures. There's a lot of those types. The DC starter set comes out today or releases today. And the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday calendar releases today, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about on Friday. So definitely check that out. We still don't have solicits up for the Sellsword expansion. Remember, I talked about it on Monday. You may not if you only listen to Onslaught Wednesdays. I talked about it. We were shown that the Sellsword expansion is coming out in January of all things, so like just right around the corner, right? Like 2 months away. 4 characters. One of them is Akanke, the goblin alchemist artificer that we've seen in the storyline OP kit that I'm about to talk about in the fishing segment. I don't remember. I actually hadn't looked up yet to see if it is the same sculpt. I would assume it's not. I would assume it is a separate miniature, kind of like they did with Drom. But you know what? I didn't actually look into that. But either way, it's fine because, I don't know how you all feel about it, but having prizing be exclusive and only you have access to that prizing alienates a lot of people in the game, especially a non-collectible game like Onslaught. HeroClix, I get it, it's a collectible game, right? You have chase figures, ultra chases, convention exclusives that change the game. That's how it's built. It's a collectible game. Onslaught isn't. It's a non-collectible game. So having certain characters behind a wall of, well, you have to win a tournament, and you might not live in an area that has tournaments, that feels bad, right? So the way they've done it before, which I know isn't necessarily standard going forward, is we had the Drom alternate sculpt painted mini where he has like the broken bottle and he's in a, looks like he's in a bar, a tavern fighting, which is what he is. He's a tavern brawler. And it's a cool sculpt. Like anytime I play Drom, I play that version of it because it just looks cool. So I know that's kind of part of what they're going for. Outside of things like the Ancient Construct, WizKids has always been, at least on the HeroClix side, emphasizing that they want the product out in players' hands. They don't want exclusivity, is that the word? To inhibit play, even in HeroClix. So if it's a new thing, like for example, for HeroClix, there was the Lady Phoenix convention exclusive. She came out in like 2020, so amidst all the hubbub of COVID. And so she was very exclusively released during a online tournament, the Worlds tournament that I helped run for HeroClix. And so very few people had her. Very few people. Because if the only way to get her, even though she was intended for a convention exclusive, there was no conventions. So she was given out as prizing, but she was not made legal until like a year later. And even now she's still legal because her release was jumbled and it took a while to get enough product out into players' hands. So WizKids does care about that. So all that to say, a Conke, if the cool thing is that if you don't win the Onslaught storyline OP play, because that's the only way to get a Conke is the grand prize, you can buy the Cell Swords expansion and you'll get it anyway. So great. The set also comes with 3 other characters, a Drampier, and it looks like an Elvish person, and then a Githyanki. I'm hoping we get more spoilers about it down the road, but I'm pumped. I love my Cell Swords. If you play Onslaught regularly and you're building teams, and I pretty much exclusively now play Red Wizards and Harpers. I kind of bounce between the two. Something like Red Wizards, love the Cell Swords. Like just the flexibility of saying, okay, I need a Molly Fairhill during this one because I need condition removal. I need the flexibility of being a tank in there, or saying I need drum, or I need additional damage of Hengaku. So I'm pumped because now Cell Swords will be a complete faction. I think right now technically you could play it if you have the Ancient Construct and you won a Conke. You could, because you technically have 4 characters from the faction set. You have the Construct, which counts as 2, and then you have a Conke, who is 1. So you could now technically field a Cell Sword faction, but there's not a ton of options yet. So having 3 more definitely helps. Outside of that, one thing I will note for Dice Master fans, if you're there, I have reached out to WizKids to get some clarity, and I have heard back that they're looking into it. Basically, they're going to figure out what's going on. They do see it out on the solicits, and looking at it now, it still doesn't have a date, which is par for the course, right? If it doesn't have a date, that means they don't have it in hand. Or at least the distributors don't. I assume that's what that means. But basically, it means that they don't know when it's coming out yet. But I'm hoping they can at least give me some clarity. Even if it's just simply we don't know what's happening to it. So it's delayed, which kind of happened with Secret Wars. Outside of that, I did get a request the other day to look into Star Trek Into the Unknown. That does come out next year. It looks like it's just kind of a board game, or I don't know if it's a cooperative game, but the plan is going forward, at least for now, is I'm going to look into, since Dice Masters is a little bit slower, to kind of pair that with the board games and do kind of a mashup Monday where I talk some Dice Masters, I talk some board games, because I would like to get out and play some of the WizKids board games, because there are quite a few and I've heard really good things about them. That's enough about the progress report. Let's talk about this Ancient Construct out in the Fishing with WizDad segment.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
Alright, so I've talked before about the Ancient Construct, but I talked about the Construct as like a playable character, and a Conke as a playable character, kind of like going over their dials. I did that a few weeks ago. I might do that again like next week or the week after in a competitive sense, talking about like how I would play the Construct on teams. I still don't have mine yet because we haven't been able to schedule the event. That probably won't happen until the beginning of December due to Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But today I wanted to talk about the actual event kit, like how to run it, what comes in the kit. Maybe you're still on the fence about whether to order one. You're not sure what all you get. So this is all out on the dndonslaught.com website. Great website. It has a storyline section which details all of this info. So to start things off, this is a multi-week event. It's not one that you just play once and great. You could technically do that if you wanted to do like a full Saturday and play through all 6 scenarios. let me tell you, that's a long, long day. I've played through multiple scenarios before, like the Benefactor, and Onslaught can very subtly eat up your time in a great way. You're having a great time, and next thing you know, it's dark outside. Very similar, like when you're playing like the Civilization video game, where you're like, oh, I've been sitting here for hours playing this. Well, I had a great time. So the kit itself comes with four painted Ancient Construct Grappler miniatures, 20 sets of painted Ancient Construct variant parts, 4 Ancient Construct character cards, 12 double-sided Ancient Construct variant cards, 4 sets of player punch board, 4 copies of this orientation seat, 1 painted Akonke prize miniature, Akonke card, punch board, and level up cards. So basically, a kit supports 4 players, and then the winner of the 4 gets the the Akonke. What I did look at the one at our local store and basically think of it as definitely not, Mr. Potato Head is not the right analogy for this, but think of it as each construct has the potato and the feet of the Mr. Potato Head, and then you attach the different head pieces and the arms to signify the different versions of the ancient construct. It's super cool. The pieces fit in there really well, and like they stick. Now, it's not action figures, so don't think like you could put them in and like move their arms up and down like Rock 'em Sock 'em Robots. It did, not gonna lie, put it together, reminded me a little bit of Rock 'em Sock 'em Robots. So if you're out there, WizKids, thinking of like a cool way to plug the ancient construct, a Rock 'em Sock 'em Robot set of the ancient constructs would be perfect. I think everyone would be on board for a Rock 'em Sock 'em Robot set. Probably trademarked, but you know, make it happen. So the kit is intended to, per the site, intended to provide prizes for a 6-week program. There are 6 scenarios in there. It contains a grand prize. We know that. Basically, you receive new participation prizes each week in the form of the Ancient Construct base figure, and then each scenario basically has one of the variants. You have the base model first for week 1, and then there's 5 other variants: the Defender, Mage, Apothecary, Arbalist, and Soldier. Effectively, at the end of 6 weeks, after players have played 6 scenarios, the player with the best record wins the grand prize. And then they kind of go into, if you have more than 4 players in a storyline event, you will need 1 kit for every 4 players. So if you have 8 players, the top 2 receive a grand prize. Pretty self-explanatory. The kit, I believe, isn't that expensive. I think like $40 to $50 for the store. So if your store was running the event, you got 4 players, they should be charging, $5 a week per player, or, a base price of like $25 to enter, or $20 to enter. $20 probably makes sense. $20 to enter for the whole 6 weeks, and effectively that's $80 for the $40 to $50 kit. That's not bad margins. If your store charges more, that's fine. Just keep in mind, this is the first storyline OP that we've really gotten. And getting to be honest, the construct and all the parts is well worth the price that you're playing. You're paying for it. The mini itself for just D&D players is amazing. If you're just a D&D player, you probably want to just buy one of these kits on your own, because having 4 of these guys would look great. They're very highly detailed. They're like a goldish with red and green trim, like kind of within the metal, and then red gems around them to signify the construct. It is beautiful, beautiful sculpts, and a decent size. They're not like massive, like a 3x3. It's a 2x2, but they look amazing. I really, really enjoyed taking them out and taking a look at them. So the tournament structure. Here's what they say. We suggest recruiting someone in your community to help run the event. Which reminds me, I need to go set up our event. Most tournaments use a Swiss system to determine pairings. Players are matched against each other with similar ratio of wins to losses. So remember, 4 players per kit. It's still a 1v1. It's not like a battle royale or paddle royale. Players are matched against each other. This should be at least 3 games of 8 players or 4 games for 12 players, blah, 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 blah. Each storyline or organized play scenario should take in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 hours, depending on players' level of experience. That is very true. It is not it's not a tournament scenario in the sense that it should be played in an hour and a half. This is under the assumption of we've got newer players. Let's get people into play. Set aside enough time to accommodate late arrivals, reading through the rules of the new scenario, and for players to read their new Ancient Construct variant card and assemble their miniatures. Each week we'll post a new scenario for players to enjoy and detail the corresponding participation prizes to hand out. If you have 4 to 7 players, it talks about running round robin. If you have more than 7, use Swiss. Makes sense. They detail the maps. Maps is played on an 18 by 24 game board. You'll need room for character cards. So that's nice that they actually detail how much room you need. This is very detailed. I really like this. I know, once again, my store is planning on running it. They bought the kit. And we're trying to hammer out when we want to do it, because I know we have some interested people. My store has been very fortunate to be embracing Onslaught, thanks to my insistence, I think. And we've had some good feedback. We've gotten quite a few people that were interested in the game, cool concept, and so I'm anxious to do this. And the more I record this, the more I'm sitting there thinking, man, I really need to sit down and start planning that out, because it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Now, if you're running the event is run in the win system. If you're a HeroClix player, you're probably groaning, but that's just how WizKids works. It's the win, the WizKids information network. You can go out there, you sign up. If you never used it before, your store should have a store page on the win. If they don't, they can sign up for one, and then they can make you a volunteer, aka a judge. And then once you do that, you could go out there and you can log into your account. And this is how you sign up for events. This is how you run events. It's an okay system. I'll be brutally honest, it's an okay system. You could go out there, create an event. You could select the dates. It has to be a future date. I hate that's a thing. I wish you can just schedule on the day. There have been plenty of times in HeroClix where we planned for one event, maybe like a quick 2-round tournament, and decided, hey, let's play another one. And you can't schedule it on the same day and have everyone join. But basically, you go out there, you can select a template. They have some for Onslaught. And right now the only one out there is Learn to Play, which is a little weird. They should have the other one out there. Huh. Well, either way, you could go out there and create from scratch, create an Onslaught Ancient Construct storyline, and your players can then sign up on the win, and you'll be able to see who's coming, and you can set the time, and then you start the event, and that's where you record all your scores, and it does pairings for you. It's an okay system. It's okay. It's not great for huge tournaments, but it's an okay system, and I think it'll be fine with Onslaught if they keep up with it. But I don't see Ancient Construct out here, so wonderful. But going back to the event. So once again, there are 6 total scenarios. Let us start with the first one. I have not looked into any of these, so this is brand new to me. The first scenario is called Awakened. It is played on the core map. I don't know if any of these require the Frogmire Coven map. I guess we will find out. If you're running this or thinking about running this in the store, before I go into the scenarios, I try to remind stores to have kind of their own kit open to demo the game, but you playing the game need to also bring your own stuff. Don't count on your store having extra copies for you of like figures and the maps and whatnot. Bring your own stuff, especially if we have newer players. So the first scenario is Awaken with an exclamation mark. This says the event organizer should pass out the following to each player. Basically the Ancient Construct base miniature. And then one double-sided Defender Grappler variant card. And so on the map, it has 2 uncontrolled Ancient Constructs. There's an active player starting area and a non-active on either side. This is the map that has the throne in the middle. And then the like 3 little dragon statues on the corners of the square of the throne. And then there's a neutral spawn. This says set up the map as indicated. Place the loot goblins, kobold cultists. Place the 2 ancient construct minis as indicated in the diagram and assign them each a grappler variant card. Cool. Prepare the loot, remove the 2 mimic tokens and 1 runestone token, then form the loot pool with the remaining tokens. Place the associated item cards near the loot pool except for the key and runestone cards. Yeah, and does it say on here, like, does the kit doesn't come with set item cards, so I assume you just bring your own. Place the roll for initiative and then choose characters. Add to player chooses 5 characters from their faction. Then the non-active chooses 5 characters from their faction, place it in the starting area. So pretty standard. I think you treat this as a tournament. You bring your faction up. So if I were to play this, I would say fill out the factions sheet. You bring what item cards you can. So that would be any of the 3 available ones. Core, like we went over a couple weeks ago, Core Game, Benefactor, Frogmire. You could bring any of those 3. Special rules. Inactive constructs. The ancient constructs begin the game uncontrolled. While uncontrolled, they cannot be the target of any attacks or abilities, cannot suffer damage, cannot gain condition tokens, and cannot move or be moved. They do not activate. Treat the squares occupied by uncontrolled ancient constructs as blocking terrain. Keys and runes. Each player can control only 1 key token at a time, and 1 runestone token at a time, whether it is held by a character they control or placed on an ancient construct they control. With looting a chest, a player cannot choose a key or runestone token if they already control a key, blah blah blah. Yeah, it makes sense. A character holding a key or runestone token cannot drop it unless that character is defeated. While a character holds a key or runestone token, they gain the following ability. Reanimate, standard action. Place a key or runestone token you are holding into an adjacent uncontrolled ancient construct that does not already have a token of that type. If that ancient construct has both a key token and a runestone token, gain control. When a character gains control of an ancient construct, they take an ancient construct character card, place it with its unbloodied side face up, set all dials to their starting position. They will assign that ancient construct an initiative card next round. When assigning that... Oh, here's the answer I was looking for. When assigning initiative cards, if one player controls an ancient construct, randomly assign it a 7.5 or 8.5. The controlling player can look at the assigned card. If both players control ancient constructs, randomly assign 7.5 or 8.5. Both players may look at their assigned cards. During this game, each controlled ancient construct activates only once each round. Okay. That makes sense. Place except for the set used for item cards, except for the key and runes. So let me look at the map real quick. So the method of getting their 4 tokens. I'm looking at how do you get these How do you get these keys and rune stones? So loot piles and neutral end zones are loot piles and are treated as chest tokens. After a player loots a loot pile, do not remove the token from the map. Ah, I see. The neutral end zone. So there's neutral... There's no neutral... I guess they mean neutral spawn zones? That's a little confusing. The neutral end zones are loot piles and are treated as chest tokens. After a player loots a loot pile, do not remove the token from the map. So I guess that gets around and allows you to keep, like, trying to find the loot, the runestone or the key. That makes sense, because they only have 4 chests on the map. So in the middle of the map, on either side, there's a neutral spawn zone. I assume that is the loot zones they are talking about. So you can go to those piles, and that's where you get the loot, I assume. Let's read the last 2 special rules. Event tokens. When a character draws a loot goblin, they suffer 1 damage. They place a loot goblin token overlapping the chest token or loot pile it was drawn from. That token now represents a loot goblin and will act accordingly. Leave the chest or loot pile token on the map. Okay. Then finally, pilfered relics. Each kobold gains the treasure hoard ability. When resolving the treasure hoard effect for kobolds and loot goblins, the player secretly looks at 2 random loot tokens instead of the whole pool and may draw one of those tokens. Okay. Now the objective of this is reanimate and take control of an ancient construct and then use it to wreak havoc. You get 1 victory point for defeating a kobold cultist or loot goblin. You get 1 victory point for defeating a enemy character, and at the end of the game you get 2 victory points for controlling an ancient construct, even if it was defeated. You can, remember, only control ever 1, I believe is the intent. You can't control both. The loot goblins, they move towards the closest chest token or loot pile. Kobold cultist attacks the closest character or tries to get within range. Pretty standard stuff, so the goal of this one is just simply get to the loot, start looting as much as possible, take out some kobolds, there's 4 of them, take them out, try to pull some the constructs, and also take out your opponent. You get a point per, so it is a very PvP, you're racing to try to get that ancient construct. So, cool concept. Basically, you both landed in the dungeon and you're trying to get to the ancient construct first. So in this one, there's 2 sides. You can fairly easily get to the 2 loot tokens, the chest tokens on each player's side. They're very close. One is further away than the other. There's only 4 kobold cultists, so really, it's after you take those guys out, it's you versus your opponent. Unless you pull some loot goblins, obviously. I don't know how often the loot goblins will pop out. I don't know how many there are. I've never actually looked at that. I haven't played a scenario with loot goblins yet. Well, I have, but it's been a hot minute. So, interesting starting scenario. Pretty, I won't say basic, because you do have to have both items to activate the ancient construct. And then once you get in it, you can kind of play around with the one it activates. I was wondering how they're doing activation, since the construct usually takes 2, and you can't exactly have more than 10 activations. Like there's only 10 player activated initiative cards. At least in this set. Frogmire expands that for the Battle Royale, but interesting. So that was the first scenario. The second scenario is called Battle. This one is on the other side of the map, of the core map, which has kind of the staircases going down to the middle. There's like a middle statue. This one says each player should bring their components they received in the previous scenario, and then they will be given the Defender variant part. So in this scenario, setting up, there are 4 kobold cultists, 2 gnolls, a concave token. Okay. Ooh, interesting. So typically on this map, you're actually starting in the raised elevated sections in the middle of the map on opposite sides. It is it's like a 6x4 section of elevated. You have like a 2x4 section in the middle of that elevated. So that's neat. You start in the middle of the map. there is 2 neutral spawn zones at the beginning of the staircases. That is where gnolls are, and then the cultists are kind of surrounding a Conke in the middle. So, typical setup, you each player rolls 2 dice, you roll initiative, prepare loot, set up the map. The active player, choosing characters is a little different. The active player assigns either the grappler or defender variant to their ancient construct and chooses 3 other characters from their faction following normal list building rules. Then the non-active player assigns either the grappler or defender variant card to their ancient construct, chooses 3 of theirs, and places all 4 characters. So that's something to keep in mind. Now you're only playing with 3, because remember the construct counts as 2 characters. It does play, it does have 2 initiatives. Special rules, Akanke. The Akanke token is not considered a monster or a character, cannot be the target of any attacks or abilities, cannot suffer damage, cannot gain status tokens, and does not block line of sight or movement. However, characters and monsters cannot end their movement overlapping a Akanke token. While moving the Akanke token, treat Akanke's speed as 4 and obey all movement rules as if moving a monster. Makes sense. At the end of each round, starting with the non-active player, players alternate spawning monsters overlapping or adjacent to neutral end zones. A gnoll can be spawned only if there are 1 or fewer gnolls. A kobold can be spawned only if there are 3 or fewer kobolds. Continue alternating players spawn 1 monster at a time until no monsters can be spawned. Extra loot. After a character loots a chest, instead of removing the chest token, place 1 damage token on the chest token. If it has 2 damage tokens, remove the chest. So you kind of get 2 loots out of there. They are kind of a little bit of a distance, so you run the risk of grabbing them. You get 1 victory point for a Kobold Cultist, 2 victory points for an enemy character, and 3 for a gnoll. Interesting. So this one is shorter. The last one was 8 rounds. This one is 6. And basically, there's nothing really to do about a Conke. You're not really like saving the goblin. You're kind of just going in there, using the construct. This is kind of really a testing out the construct in battle a little bit more. You're fighting gnolls and cultists. That's really where a lot of your victory points come from. You do get 2 for taking out an enemy character, but keep in mind they only have 3 characters and the construct, and the constructs can be difficult to take out, especially since you're working with the grappler or defender variant cards. 6 rounds also isn't a ton, so that's kind of like a tournament level. So that's one where you'll probably kind of rush in and probably try to take out kobolds and gnolls is probably my goal. Attacking my enemy, I don't know if I want to waste turns when the gnolls and kobold cultists can be pretty reasonably defeated, I think. So that's interesting. So that one you kind of get in and get into a battle and fight waves because they do respawn. And then the final scenario we'll talk about today is the Brawl scenario. This is week 3. It goes back to the other map of the core set with the throne in the middle. It has a... this one has where, once again, you're starting in the middle sections. Kind of in the little doorways, which is unusual. You get the soldier/arbalist variant cards. And there are, once again, kobold sentries, armored gnolls on this map. And they're kind of defending the treasure chest. But in the middle, basically where the throne is and the little platform it's on and the bigger platform in between the statues, is something called the arena. I guess that makes sense with the brawl part. So, typical setup. When you get to step 4 of choosing characters, the active player assigns a defender, grappler, or soldier variant card to their ancient construct and places it within the arena area in one of the 2 corners closest to their starting area. Okay, so it's like a boxing ring. Then the non-active player kind of does the same in the opposite side, and then you have 3 additional characters. Special rules: the arena. Characters inside the arena cannot attack or target enemies that are outside the arena, and characters outside the arena cannot attack or target enemies that are inside the arena. A character inside the arena cannot place summoned minions outside the arena, and vice versa. Minions cannot move into or out of the arena. Characters cannot move into or out of the arena except via the abilities below. Characters in the arena gain the following ability. Tag in. It's a movement power. If you are adjacent to a friendly character not in the arena, swap places with that character. There must be a space to place both characters fully inside or outside of the arena, respectively. If a normal character swaps with a large character, the two characters must remain adjacent after the swap. Characters not in the arena gain the following ability. Step up. It's another movement ability. Or movement action, I should say. If there are no friendly characters in the arena and you are adjacent to the arena, move one space into the arena, or two for large characters. There must be space to fully place this character inside the arena. Then there's two other special ones. Extra experience. When a character defeats a Kobold Sentry, they gain 1 XP. When a character defeats an Armored Gnoll, they gain 2 XP. This XP in addition to the standard XP for performing an attack that hits. Okay, so you can really ramp up the level ups for your characters. This extra XP, I am assuming, is also because of the Ancient Construct. The Construct, remember, their abilities, it doesn't level up like traditionally. Instead, it uses XP to use its abilities. Kind of like Jelena or some of the other ones that have the charges. Think of XP as charges. You got to build up XP to use those charges. And it starts, I believe, with like 1 or 2. And then same extra loot scenario where you could basically loot a chest twice. Victory points. Defeat an enemy character, you get 1 victory point at the end of each round. If you're the only player with a character in the arena, gain 1 victory point. Okay. Interesting. No XP for taking out monsters. They're really there just for your Ancient Construct to gain some XP, level up. But you want to consistently stay in the arena. You want at least someone in the arena. So that's interesting. It's kind of, you got to get in the arena and duke it out. This one, I don't know how this one would work. Like, not in a bad way. I'm just intrigued by this. Looking at this scenario, you know, the arena itself is pretty big. I would assume... well, I guess I shouldn't assume that the blocking doesn't count. Like, I guess the arena... I guess it does. Because, the chair in the middle is technically blocking. So, interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting third scenario. Kind of like I was joking about Rock and Sock and Robots earlier, but that's kind of what this is. Put your Ancient Construct in there, though it might behoove you instead to take the Construct out to get some XP to be able to use the abilities more. Tag someone like Drom who could take some hits. Run your Construct out, get some double XP, run back in. Also to equip, I think the Construct can equip items. So like run to one of the chests, get a better item or something to give you a bonus and get back in the ring and fight the other Construct. I like that. The more that I think about it, I think I like it more and more. I can't wait to try it out. So that's going to be it for this episode. I was going to cover the first 3 scenarios. Next week we will talk about the other 3 scenarios, which is called Sabotage, Clash, and Betrayal. So far, it's interesting. Like, the scenarios look a lot of fun. They're interesting enough, but not overly complicated, which is what this needed to be. The Storyline OP kit should have been a way to get new people into the game, have people, like, use the store's kit, I guess, or someone could bring extra factions, and you could sit down, play in the tournament, kind of, get them used to the game so they buy more of the game and keep playing, and this is a great way to do it. I think the first 3 scenarios are fun. The Awaken is simple enough that they don't have to feel overwhelmed, and then kind of capitalizing on the Brawl section. Battle really gets you more experience with combat, a lot more combat, and then Brawl really ramps up the PvP because it is purely PvP, as it should be with the name Brawl. But thank you guys for listening to this episode of Whiz. I will be back on Friday for HeroClix. We've got quite a bit to talk about. We've got some Guardian of the Galaxy holiday calendar to talk about, some Iconics talk, some Wheels talk. We've got a lot to talk about. So you guys have a wonderful Wednesday and Thursday, and I will see you hopefully back here on Friday. Have a great day.